Dr. Samuel Kwan was not your average 68-year-old. Despite 3 decades as one of the country's most respected heart surgeons, he still began every morning with a 10-minute jog, scrubbed in for surgeries twice a week, and lectured at medical schools on weekends. His eyes were clear, his posture upright, and his handshake firm, startlingly so for a man pushing 70. At a cardiology conference in San Diego, a young medical resident asked him during a Q&A, "What's the one thing you do every day to stay sharp, strong, and full of energy? You're busier than all of us and still look 20 years younger." The room chuckled, but Dr. Kwan didn't hesitate. "I eat one food every day," he said, "without fail. It's not expensive, not trendy, but it's the most important part of my daily routine: walnuts." There was a silence, then a murmur of surprise. "Not blueberries, not kale, not salmon," someone joked. Dr. Kwan smiled. "Those are all excellent, but if I could only keep one thing in my diet, it would be a handful of walnuts." He didn't mean it metaphorically. Every morning, right after his jog and before his first patient, he reached for a small jar in his office drawer, one he'd filled with exactly 12 walnut halves the night before. "They're not just a snack," he explained. "They're a tool for my brain, my heart, and my energy. Let me tell you why." It began with a scare. Dr. Kwan was 53 when he fainted in the operating room. He hadn't eaten that morning, and after 5 hours of surgery, he stepped back from the table, turned pale, and crumpled to the floor. He woke up minutes later, surrounded by his stunned colleagues. His vitals stabilized quickly, but a checkup the next day revealed borderline high cholesterol, rising blood pressure, and signs of early insulin resistance. "I was the guy fixing other people's hearts," he said, "but I was quietly breaking my own." It was a turning point. He didn't just want to avoid medication, he wanted to reverse the damage. So he researched, studied the Mediterranean diet, dug into nutritional biochemistry, and in dozens of clinical papers, one food kept showing up: walnuts. High in omega-3 fatty acids, polyphenols, and plant-based protein, walnuts stood out as a rare triple threat, fighting inflammation, improving cognitive function, and supporting vascular health. What happened next shocked him. He began eating a small handful every day, usually in the morning. Within 3 months, his fasting blood sugar dropped. His LDL cholesterol fell by 20 points. His HDL, good cholesterol, rose. And his mental clarity, sharper than ever. He wasn't imagining it. A landmark study from the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition had shown that older adults who consumed walnuts regularly saw improvements in memory and focus. Another from the Journal of the American Heart Association reported that just 2 ounces of walnuts a day improved endothelial function, critical for keeping arteries flexible and healthy. But what struck Dr. Kwan most was how consistently stable he felt. No more energy crashes in the afternoon. No more fog between surgeries. His weight leveled, his skin cleared, his mood improved. He began recommending walnuts to patients, not as a miracle, but as a cornerstone. Why walnuts and not other nuts? "Almonds are great," he would say. "So are pistachios, but walnuts are special. Walnuts are the only tree nut significantly high in ALA, alpha-linolenic acid, a plant-based omega-3 fat known for reducing inflammation and protecting the brain. They also contain powerful polyphenols, antioxidants that combat oxidative stress, which accelerates aging and arterial damage. They're also rich in melatonin, supporting better sleep, and arginine, which helps relax blood vessels. Think of them as cardiovascular medicine in shell form," he told his students. "They nourish the blood vessels from the inside out." He also gave specific rules. Don't roast them. Don't salt them. Keep them raw, or at most lightly toasted at home. He kept his in a glass jar in the fridge to preserve the oils. "Bad fats go rancid fast," he explained. "A bitter walnut is a dead walnut." He warned against trail mixes with sugar or coatings. "You're not eating candy," he'd say. "You're feeding your neurons." It wasn't just about the nutrients, it was the routine. For Dr. Kwan, those 12 walnut halves weren't just fuel. They were a daily ritual, a pause. A reminder to care for the body that carried him through 12-hour days, red-eye flights, and high-pressure surgeries. Even when traveling, he kept a pouch of them in his carry-on. He had them after red-eye flights, before lectures, between meetings. Once, in a hospital cafeteria in Seoul, a nurse watched him pull out a tiny container of walnuts and eat them one by one while reading scans. "Are you on a special diet?" she asked. He smiled. Just trying to keep my brain from falling asleep before my hands do. His patients saw the benefits too. An 81-year-old woman with a history of arrhythmia and fatigue began eating walnuts daily after Dr. Kwan recommended it. She called him 6 months later. "I don't know what's in those nuts," she said, "but I can walk farther, sleep deeper, and my mind doesn't feel like molasses anymore." Another patient, a 60-year-old accountant recovering from bypass surgery, added walnuts to his breakfast every day. His inflammatory markers dropped. His triglycerides normalized. Dr. Kwan never claimed walnuts cured disease, but he knew they worked with the body, not against it. Now, 15 years after that operating room scare, he still hasn't missed a day. He eats them plain. No yogurt, no smoothie, no muffins, just 12 clean halves, chewed slowly. Some mornings, they're his first food. Other days, they're a mid-morning reset. He's watched colleagues burn out. He's watched younger doctors battle brain fog, fatigue, creeping blood pressure. And quietly, he's kept going, powered in part by a humble ancient nut. When asked at conferences what the future of medicine looks like, he often gives the same answer. It looks like prevention, like better choices made daily. And sometimes it looks like a handful of walnuts in a jar. The audience usually laughs, but then they lean in. Because when a world-class surgeon with a 40-year career, a steady hand, and a clear mind tells you he owes much of his energy and longevity to one simple food, you listen. And if you're smart, the next time you open your pantry, you reach for the jar too.